Welcome back. You're watching Morning Express. Thanks for staying with us. We continue with our discussions, taking a look at some of the latest stories covered in today's dailies. And of course, a raft of them touching on politics and the link with the economy. Speaking of the economy, Kenya gets 44 billion shillings from IMF in a new deal. And of course, this is part of the debt pileup, but we well know the situation we are at, the IMF having released that particular batch. Also mentioning their concerns in the war against COVID-19 that is riddled with corruption. That's on the back page of the Daily Nation. But Gloria, when we took a short break, you had a burning issue, quote unquote.
Yes, you know, Mheshimiwa was explaining Mudavadi's economic, political, I don't even know what it was, because it sounded to me like a manifesto. It sounded to me like a sort of list of policies that they are going to put in. But then I was asking, when you have a presidential candidate, they have a slogan, or they at least boil down the whole campaign to one thing or to one approach. And that is what the Hustler Nation has done. They've boiled it down to the economy, and they're saying, building the economy from the bottom up. And as you have seen, the UDA slogan has been Kazi ni Kazi, still attached to the economy. So when we were asking what Musalia Mudavadi is, his campaign platform, slogan, approach, and things, we are not expecting to see manifesto. What is he going to boil it down? Because, of course, when you talk about all those elements on, whether it is in the energy industry or whatever, there will be some policies or some things that will also be implemented by the Hustler Nation. But what we are asking is, what is the campaign approach, or what is the campaign narrative, or what is the campaign slogan? Because surely every presidential candidate has singled down a problem or something, and they're saying, this is how I'm going to solve it.
Okay.
We saw Trump saying, making America great again. We've seen Obama, yes, we can, and the approach was basically hope again, And the Hustler Nation is basically saying the economy bottom up. So what is Musalia Mudavadi's again?
Kasim, perhaps it's still in the kitchen cooking. Is it too early to tell? Just briefly, before we continue.
No, you see, from what Gloria is talking about and what I'm talking about, I think are two different issues. And to me, what I'm talking about is what else the economy. Even when you come to the Kazi ni Kazi, this is something which we know, and any economist, a serious leader, will know it's not sustainable, because to engage somebody useful, it must be some form of production. There must be somebody working to produce something. Kazi ni Kazi is just a government fund set aside, giving people to tell them, okay, at least we'll engage you for a few hours, you'll go and clean a drain, you'll go and do grass cutting, you'll go and probably disinfect somewhere. That is not production, that is not sustainable. And by the way, with that kind of economics, it cannot last, because we are talking about the real produce, the real movers of this economy. Yes, we have the people at the bottom, but of course, the bottom people get their money from the top. So you start from the top to create wealth, not from the bottom. You cannot start creating the bottom. And the only way you can do that is what Professor was saying, probably distributive economy. Tell people, okay, whilst I'm there, I'll give you this. But can you do that at the national level? And what will be coming out of what you are giving out? That's where the problem is.
So in short, there's
where Musalia comes in is when he talks about the real issues about the economy, which will transcend to the bottom, to the lowest person there. Because the moment the economy starts moving, the moment we are relieved of the debt burden, the moment we are manufacturing, the moment our other sectors are working, the moment we seal the loopholes and corruption, because we know even when it comes to distributive economy, you will find that a fund could be set, as the Deputy President will be saying, but how much will ultimately get to the bottom? That is another issue, and that is where we cannot run away from the elephant in the room. We need to tackle these bigger issues. And I think we've gone out, Musalia has gone out to say exactly how that has been done. He's been there before as the Minister of Finance, and he knows exactly what can be done to revive the economy.
So in short, he does not have a single approach, and in short, you've just been the politician that you are, because
Gloria,
you haven't really answered.
Allow me to ask the questions now. Let's shift focus. Kasim, I'll give you a short breath. even as we shift focus right now to the BBI issue. It's going to be a busy week next week, even as we expect that case to be heard from June the 29th all the way to July the 2nd. Just recently, we've seen the 7-judge bench that will be hearing this particular appeal being named. It's on page 10 of the Standard. Daniel Musinga, who will be leading this bench, the Court of Appeal president, as well as the other 6 judges. What say you, Professor? You've been silent for some time.
Yes, I think my advice to the politicians who want to compete with Ruto is that the BBI will not deliver them, because the timelines for the BBI are actually out. That for stability of this state, we need to concentrate right now on organizing for the 2022 general election. It does not matter how the court rules. This case is going to the Supreme Court, because we need clarity on Article 256 and 257. We need clarity when we have delegated the power to you. When can you go back and become Wanjiku again after power has been delegated? Because that's what we do every election. We delegate the power to people who are supposed to lead us. So I think at the moment the competitors in the political forum realize that the BBI is unlikely to be infected, then better for them. Then number 2 is, I think the BBI, when you read about it, there's only 2 issues in contention. And I don't know why they can't take all the rest to Parliament right now and pass. What is in contention is the expansion of the executive and the expansion of Parliament. The IPPG has come out very clear that it is not possible for them to delimit, even if it were to pass, to delimit those boundaries. So that question is also out. So we only have one thing, expansion of the executive. They shouldn't be able to implement the rest of the BBI with the sitting Parliament, because that is clearly false. The rest clearly false and Article 256. We can't have 2 elections within the 12 months left. It's not possible.
Exactly. And IBC was categorical about their position on this matter. 2022, those 70 new constituencies won't be applicable due to the timelines and the budget as well.
The law also says that. The Elections Act is very clear that you cannot delimit within 12 months. It has to be outside the 12 months to be applicable to the next election. Otherwise, they can still do it, but to be applicable to the election that comes in 2027 or something like that.
Kasim, I would ask now, is the IPPG route gaining momentum right now?
Unfortunately, not as we would have expected, because since that ruling came out, and it was not really a big surprise, though it was not to my liking personally because of the contents of the BBI. And I think here the problem is where we confuse the message and the messenger. I think that's where some of us, those opposing BBI, essentially are. But to me, I would actually agree with the professor that there are some issues which can come to Parliament, be solved. But the real issues, to me, actually cannot be solved through acts of Parliament. And that is the issue of the executive. If it was going to cure the issue of electoral violence, the issue of winner takes it all. This is a reality and we have to take it. Probably I will be happy because I'm thinking my man this time will take it. But you see, we should be making laws for prosperity. My man will not be there forever. You know, that is what we should be like as leaders, as Kenyans, that we need laws that will go beyond my man, the person I like right now. He could be a very good man. But that same law now, when it's handled by another bad man, then it hurts me. That's where the problem is. The issue, which to me was very dear, which is pending and it cannot be handled through Parliament, is the issue of strengthening the devolution, strengthening the counties by giving them more money. This for sure needs a referendum, which is in the Constitution. We cannot just handle it through IPPG. So, to me, the issues that can pass through Parliament are not very critical, per se. Because to me, I'm worried as a leader, come 2022, are we going to have a peaceful election away from all the history that we've had since the advent of multipartyism? That is what worries me. And whatever happens, if we don't have peace in this country, there is no bottom-up economy, there is no top-bottom economy, there is no nothing. In fact, what has brought us here, apart from the 8 years of the Jubilee government, the way they've handled the economic issues. We've been brought up here by our cycle of violence after every 5 years. This is something that we have to be alive to as leaders. So to me, it is unfortunate if we are not going to be able to apply the contents of the contentious issues. I'm going for the contentious issues. That's the expansion of the executive. I don't think constituencies is a really contentious issue, or it's an issue that will make or break the 2022 election. But the issue of winner takes it all, which has been contentious since the advent of multipartyism, this worries me, and I hope that somehow, somewhere, this can be sorted out. Whichever way, if there's another alternative, let it be there. But let's not have the same scenarios we've been having after every 5 years, because that's what ails the economy right now.
It can be done with the election.
Okay, well noted, Kasim. Gloria, add your voice to this. He holds reservations that we might be going into an election year with the same issues that have been bedeviling us in terms of a cyclic violence, and this has to do with inclusivity aspect in one way or the other. Well, what's your take on this as you add your voice on the BBI prospect?
First of all, I want to say we've never had an issue of the winner takes it all. The winner has always taken it all. In any kind of competition, it's not like you're going to have number one and then number 1.0. Then, I mean, the winner is the winner. The winner in a marathon is the winner. Then you have, you know, gold, then silver. Then we've never had an issue with it. When Moi Kibaki won, he was the winner and he took it all. You understand? It's like that has never been an issue. The issue that we have had is the post-election, the pre-election violence and post-election violence. And if you ask me, when you look at where it is rooted from, it is simply from the transparency of our election processes. And I want to just touch on two things. We have had a lot of by-elections in the last couple of months, and we have seen how the results have been taken, or how, you know, the environment after the by-election. So, for instance, in places where it was accepted and we said, you know, fine, this person has won and this person has lost, we'll try out, you know. It's because the people, the electorate, have actually, they sort of trusted in the process, they sort of trusted in the transparency of the process. So if I've been here from morning, I've seen how the ballots have been counted, you understand, I have some sort of trust in the process, and IEBC has been transparent, then I'm not going to come back and say niliibiwa kura. So, you know, if we are going to talk about post or pre-election violence, then we need to talk about IEBC and making the processes efficient and transparent. So to me, that can be solved outside of a referendum, that can be solved outside of BBI, outside of any other initiative, because that is just about looking at IEBC, the processes, the transparency, the integrity of the people who work as the IEBC representatives. And, you know, we've seen the by-elections being accepted, and they've been very, let's say, seats that have been highly contested, and, you know, considering the temperatures. So I think that issue has been solved. When we talk about strengthening devolution through BBI, I think that is like stretching it. It's a fallacy. You know, we do not have a caveat that says the president cannot give more than 15% of the national revenue to the counties. Actually, what we have is a minimum. So if we have a minimum that is in the constitution, that 15% goes to the counties, then the only thing that can solve this problem is political goodwill by whoever it is that will come in. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're being tied down to that person, because that's why you're actually elected as a member of parliament, as a member of county assembly or a senator, so that you can push for certain things, so that you can push for certain, let's say, infrastructural projects to be taken to your area. So I think the issue of strengthening devolution by increasing the fund to 35%, you can have a president that will come in, say, for instance, if Raila Odinga wins and he understands what devolution has done, he can actually even say, I'm going to give 80% to the counties, and nothing stops him from that.
But wouldn't it be better if it's in law? That's the argument of the proponents.
Jesse, listen, we have had, let me just respond to that. We have actually currently a law that says, talks about two-thirds gender rule. And where is the political goodwill? You understand? So it is not about the laws that we institute, but it's about the cultural, political goodwill that we are going to, the leaders that we put in there, for instance. And that's why when I hear someone saying building the economy from the bottom up, I'll be looking at how he is going to disperse the national revenue, because building the economy from the bottom up also means that you have to strengthen devolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, actually, I think the BBI was sorting out quite a few intrinsic problems. It was talking out how to create regular account the equality of the vote. BBI was addressing that question, and to that extent, that was very good. BBI was also sorting out the way we gave out the money right now, which I think was wrong. It should never have been there in the first place. Counties should have been funded strictly development only, so that employment remains the local issues. So BBI was addressing that question. That also was very good because that question is still unresolved. So there were areas where BBI was really on point. The only areas where I think is not on point, and I agree with that, is expansion of executive in no way solves our problem, because if the process is opaque, it will be contested. By very nature, elections are about contestation and therefore conflict. So the management of that process is what actually matters. And that one has it need for us to go to any referendum. We can sit down and figure out how we manage this process.
But how do we sort out the issue that a percentage of the population might feel cut out after the election, since due to the emotive nature of the politics in the country?
How will they feel cut out?
I would want to come in here, Rogers. And I would want us to be very realistic about our Kenyan situation. We cannot compare our situation with even our neighbors here in Tanzania. And that's what I've been saying. I wish and I hope that within the next 1 year, the Kenyan voter will change from voting tribal or regional to voting policies. That is my hope. That is the ideal situation. But in a situation where after every election, it's like more or less half of the population feels that they are not in the government, and therefore they create that notion, whether true or imagine, that the vote might have been stolen, the process might not have been transparent. That's why we've lost. We need to look at this. Otherwise, in a situation like our neighbors here, Tanzania, where there is a clear cut that this presidential candidate has won, then there's no problem. You remember, even in these mini elections, in parliamentary elections, we normally have people going to court where the margin is small. And that is where people now go into court to see whether they can get redress. But in a situation where there's a clear winner, even in a parliamentary election, you don't see these people going to court. But our history has shown us that our presidential vote, and I wish we would relate this to the presidential vote, not the mini elections that we've had in here, in Juja or in a ward somewhere. No, we are talking about the presidential vote.
Okay.
And this has been brought by the fact that the president basically holds everything. He holds a bigger chunk of the monies that are supposed to be for the citizens. He has that power to decide where he takes that money. That's another problem. But for now, we need to look for a solution. We cannot continue doing the same things over and over again in the same manner and hope for different results. Okay. We have had Chibukati in the last general election. We saw what happened. We've had the other electoral bosses before. We need somehow to get a mix of something else and hope for a better result.
Jesse, every election petition or court case or whatever, you know, when someone comes out and says, "Hii sijakubali," just go and look at the basis with which they are filing that court case. It will be, even that one that was annulled, we were saying open the servers. It was the opaqueness. It was about the processes of IEBC. It was never about that I actually think hapana huyu hawezi nishinda because personality yake. It was about IEBC processes and the transparency. If you look at all the court cases, whether people who have gone MPs or whatever, they will come and say, oh, easy boxes zilikuja zikaongezwa, there was vote. You understand? Okay. Voter bribery, or they will say there was intimidation, or my polling stations zilifungwa. When you look at those cases, everyone is complaining about the process, about the transparency, about the integrity of the officers.
Okay.
You know, so, no, and that's what we need to fix, because if that is the root cause of people going to court, sometimes you're asked, sasa ulienda kotini kwa nini? Aki anani, we counted everything. My ninis were there, my agents were there. Process. So you cannot run away from the process being the issue. And that's why I truly think if we put everything aside and say, let us focus on the process, whether it's a by-election or a general election, presidential or otherwise, if the process is flawed, then nobody is going to trust it and everybody will come out saying, I won. And that's where the issue comes in.
Well noted. Yeah. Allow us to shift focus. Well, electoral reforms is a key issue that needs to be sorted out. That's what I'm getting from you guys. On page 12, on the Standard, Haji, the DPP, mentions we will deal firmly with hate mongers in the next elections. Professor, from your former position as NCIC head, what say you about this?
Yeah, I think it's good they should deal with hate mongers viciously, because these are just bad people. Because you say all your policy, don't sell us hate. In fact, one of the rights which is limited is freedom of speech. It's limited. It says it cannot extend it to propaganda for war. It cannot extend it to hate speech. Cannot extend it to vilification of others or communities. So we want responsible leaders, and therefore the law cannot be kind to people who are not responsible. We want you to come and tell us exactly where you want to lead us, what you will do for us. Give us your program. Don't tell us how we should hate one another. So the moment you veer in that direction, the law should come in very strongly and deal with it.
Do you think the officers of the DPP, ACC, are still hunting the big fish? Professor?
I think they will. I think we need to trust our institutions that they will do us right, they will protect us, because that's another problem. We have a trust deficit in this country on government institutions, and that's not right. We need to trust that the people we are placed there, people with integrity, people can protect us from, because there is always in electioneering, there's some people just get carried away. But also the Kenyans need to start rejecting incitement. When a given politician veers off from his agenda, you should leave his meeting and go home peacefully, quietly. Just leave him alone. Because what we want here is peace. We don't want people to come and disrupt. We want to be poor in our peace. It is better. It is better that way than being rich in a state of war. So we should not allow these Kenyans to mess us up.
Okay. Kasim, some of the concerns around the chasing of corruption cases and all that, and Professor alluded to it, the deficit of trust. And perhaps this is well placed, considering claims of partisanship and all that. Where do you sit on this issue?
Well, to me, it is very sad when it comes to the different government agencies which should be performing, and to me, they have no reason not to perform. It does not excite me when the DPP said he'll hit hate mongers hard in the coming general election. We are tired of pronouncements, either from the DPP or from the DCI, from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption boss, and even from the head of state. There have been so many pronouncements on that we are going to do this, we take action, and nothing is done. What is happening to the current cases? And I think Professor here will give us an insight, having been in the commission before. There are quite a number of cases right now sitting in our various courts of law in terms of hate speech. What is happening? Nothing is happening. So if you already have a problem that you can't solve, but you are saying now you are going to solve the next problem, I don't think we can take you seriously. But the correct position to me is, can all the agencies, be it the courts, because finally hitting hard means taking them to the courts, can the courts also take these issues seriously? For me, I'll always take one position. We start with the peace first. With the peace, then we can talk about the other things. With no peace, we have no country, we cannot move, we cannot do anything. That is where the tragedy is. And as we go into the next general election, then we are talking about also what we as politicians normally ascribe to, that we keep peace. But before we go there, we already know that there are some people who are troublemakers. I think this is also the duty of the political parties to make sure that they give the Mwananchi the right candidates, those people who know can make sense out of the problems that the ordinary Kenyan voter, the ordinary Mwananchi is facing. Okay. So it is a whole process. It is a whole process that has to be pieced together. But to me, I'm hoping that this time we are going to have action, and let's start by acting on those already in court. Be it matters corruption, be it matters hate speech, be it matters anything else that is in court, can they be concluded?
Well noted, Kasim. Gloria, as you add your take on this as we finalize press review, perhaps give a word to the World Rally Championship enthusiasts right now, because it's a boost to business in Naivasha, whichever way you look at it. What say you about this?
So on the hate mongering, that's one thing. But they should also put some spotlight on the fear mongering. There's a lot of politics that has been directed to selling fear. And when you sell fear, it's also some sort of, you're actually trying to turn a community through fear against something or someone. So it comes down also to hate. This fear politics of, if we don't vote for this one, we are going to come down like 2008. If we, there's a fear thing. The fear, we've had even when the Kotu boss said that, referendum must happen, whether you like it or not, otherwise we are not going, that kind of instituting fear and selling fear to people, that should also be looked at, because it boils down to also the hate mongering. On the safari rally, there's been a lot of nini on my timelines about Vasha, what is happening in Naivasha and things like that. I think the one positive thing that has come out of that is a level of our economy has been boosted in terms of just the hotels in Naivasha, the domino effect around having so many people visit a certain point. So I think that's a good thing. But in future, perhaps our ministry, whether it is the Ministry of Tourism, because I saw Najib also championing it, or the Ministry of Arts, Culture and Sports, should probably look for ways to sort of diversify the income revenue, so that it's not just like, oh, sasa Naivasha ndio itapata watu. They can be creative. They can have sort of like we are going to the safari rally, 3 weeks to safari rally. What are we going to do? We have this showcasing there. Maybe this car will be seen. You understand? they can try and be innovative, because we are in 2021. But otherwise, it's a good show of events. Did you see the guys in Chiromo Lane actually climbing the cars?
Yes, we saw. But
that was crazy.
Why? I just want to single out this matter, that if it's politicians, then Gloria will be up in arms about the spectators, the people who are watching Safari Rally without passes, without social distancing. Why do people tend to hate politicians so much? I agree with her. It's a economy goes, but can we look at it also on the other side of the COVID pandemic, Gloria?
Mehesh, I wouldn't be up in arms. Mia, I'm just trying to celebrate something good. It's been like a long, gloomy period of economic crisis. So when you see people, Mama Mboga and the likes, making money out of an event, honestly, I mean, I would say put on your mask, but yes, some sort of light towards the end of this tunnel.
Provide your voice briefly as we conclude.
I think I agree with both of them.
All right, let's take a short break. We've concluded press review right now. When we come back, we shift focus. There was a hard-hitting interview just yesterday. Deputy President William Ruto, right here on KTN News, gave his sentiments on a couple of issues, the state of Jubilee, in terms of that agreement they want to enter with the ODM party. He also talked about the BBI process and what he would do different in terms of the appointment.